In old age, learn to act as if nothing bothers you. You know, when you reach a certain age, like I have, you start to see things very differently. Not because the world changes, but because you finally understand it. And if there's one lesson that took me far too long to learn, it's this. Most things that once disturbed me never really mattered at all. Yet I let them steal my peace, my time, even my health. So today, I want to speak plainly. Like an old man sitting across from you, sharing what life has carved into him, learn to act as if nothing bothers you. Now don't misunderstand me. I'm not telling you to become cold or empty. I've lived long enough to know that emotions are part of being human. But there's a difference between feeling something and being controlled by it. Most people never learn that difference. They react to every word, every opinion, every inconvenience. Someone criticizes them, they lose sleep. Something doesn't go their way, they carry it for days. And slowly, without realizing it, they hand over control of their life to everything around them. I used to be that way myself. When I was younger, I thought reacting meant strength. If someone disrespected me, I had to respond. If life pushed me, I pushed back harder. But all that did was exhaust me. It took me years to see that the strongest people I met were not the loudest, not the quickest to react. They were the calm ones. The ones who could stand in the middle of chaos and remain untouched, almost as if nothing could reach them. That kind of composure, that's real power. You see, life will always bring noise. People will talk. Situations will go wrong. Plans will fall apart. That's not something you can control. What you can control, what you must learn to control, is your response. Because the moment you let the outside world dictate how you feel inside, you become its prisoner. Let me give you a simple example. There was a time when a man insulted me publicly. Younger me would have fired back immediately, maybe even escalated things. But this time, I didn't. I just looked at him, smiled slightly, and walked away. And you know what happened? Nothing. No explosion, no loss of dignity. In fact, something interesting happened. He lost his power in that moment. Because he expected a reaction, and when he didn't get one, he was left with his own words echoing back at him. That's when I realized something important. People can only control you if you react the way they expect. The same goes for failure, and believe me, I've had my share of it. Lost money, lost opportunities, made decisions I wish I could take back. When I was younger, every failure felt like a personal attack. I would sit there, replaying it over and over, asking myself why it happened, blaming myself or others. But that kind of thinking traps you. It keeps you stuck in the past. Eventually, I learned to see things differently. Failure is not personal, it's information. That's all it is. Something didn't work. Fine. Adjust and move forward. When you remove the emotional weight from it, failure becomes useful instead of painful. And that shift, it changes everything. Now, how do you actually train yourself to become this kind of person? It's not something that happens overnight. You don't just wake up one day and suddenly nothing bothers you. No, it's built slowly, in small moments, in everyday situations. It starts with a pause. The next time something irritates you, and it will, don't react immediately. Just pause. Even for a few seconds. Ask yourself quietly, does this really matter in the long run? Most of the time, the answer is no. But we don't give ourselves that moment to think. We jump straight into reaction, and that's where we lose control. Over time, that pause becomes a habit, and that habit becomes your shield. Another thing I learned is the power of how you see yourself. If you constantly think of yourself as someone easily affected, easily upset, easily shaken, then that's exactly what you'll be. But if you begin to picture yourself as calm, steady, unbothered, your mind starts to follow that image. It sounds simple, but the mind is a powerful thing. It listens to what you repeat. I used to sit quietly in the evenings and reflect on my day, not to judge myself, but to observe. Where did I react unnecessarily? Where could I have stayed calm? And little by little, I improved. Not perfectly, never perfectly, but enough to notice the difference. And let me tell you, people notice too. When you stop reacting to everything, you become difficult to read. Not in a negative way, but in a way that commands respect. People don't quite understand why you're so calm. They start to think twice before provoking you. They begin to see you as someone grounded, someone steady. But here's the truth. It's not about how they see you. It's about how you feel inside. When you're no longer pulled in every direction by every little thing, you gain something very rare in this world: peace. And peace is not something you should take lightly, especially as you get older. You see, emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you choose what deserves your care. That's a very important difference. Most people waste their energy on things that don't deserve it: small arguments, passing opinions, temporary frustrations. They treat everything as if it's equally important, but it's not. When you learn to be selective, your life becomes lighter. I remember a time when I used to worry about what people thought of me, not constantly, but enough for it to affect my decisions. I would hesitate, second-guess myself, adjust my behavior just to avoid judgment. But over the years, I came to a simple realization: no matter what you do, people will always have something to say. Always. Some will approve, some will criticize, and most won't care at all. So why spend your energy trying to please everyone? It's a losing game. The more you seek approval, the more control you give away. Real confidence doesn't come from others. It comes from knowing who you are and standing by it quietly. And that kind of confidence, it doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to argue or prove anything. It just exists. I've met people like that. They walk into a room and don't say much, but you can feel their presence. Not because they demand attention, but because they are completely at ease with themselves. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're not reacting to every little thing. They simply are. And that's something worth becoming. Now, as you move through life, especially in later years, you start to realize that time and energy are limited. You can't afford to waste them on things that don't matter. So you begin to ask better questions. Not, why did this happen to me? But, is this worth my attention? That question alone can save you from a lot of unnecessary suffering, because most of what troubles us today won't even cross our minds a few years from now. Yet we let it consume us in the moment. We let it disturb our peace, ruin our mood, even affect our relationships. That's why learning indifference, not cold indifference, but mindful indifference, is so important. It means you choose your battles carefully. It means you don't react to every opinion, every comment, every inconvenience. It means you understand that your energy is valuable and you don't give it away cheaply. And once you begin to live that way, something shifts inside you. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and start feeling like you're moving through it with control. Not control over everything, that's impossible, but control over yourself. And that, my friend, is where true strength begins. And once you begin to understand that, truly understand it, not just as an idea, but as something you live by, life starts to feel different in a quiet, almost subtle way. You're still in the same world, dealing with the same kinds of people, the same unexpected turns, the same disappointments. But inside, there's less noise, less tension, less urgency to react. Now let me tell you something else that took me a long time to accept. Seeking approval is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. When you're younger, you don't notice it. You think you're just being polite, being social, fitting in, but slowly, without realizing it, you begin shaping your life around other people's expectations. You say things you don't fully believe. You hold back parts of yourself. You wait for validation before you move forward. I did that more times than I'd like to admit. And every time I did, I felt a quiet discomfort inside. Not loud, not obvious, but there. A kind of disconnection from myself. Because deep down, we all know when we're not being true to who we are. It wasn't until later in life that I stopped asking, what will they think? And started asking, what do I think? And that small shift, it changed everything. Because when your own opinion becomes your foundation, other people's opinions lose their weight. Not completely, you still listen, you still consider, but they no longer control you. That's what freedom feels like. And I'll tell you this, people respect that more than you think. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because they can sense that you're not trying at all. There's a steadiness in that, a kind of quiet certainty. Of course, not everyone will understand you. Some may even criticize you more. But that brings me to another lesson, criticism itself. You cannot go through life without being criticized. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. Someone somewhere will have something negative to say. That's just how people are. But the mistake most people make is treating all criticism as if it's equal. It's not. Some criticism is useful. It comes from experience, from people who genuinely want to help you improve. That kind of feedback you should pay attention to. But most criticism, most of it is just noise. It comes from people who don't understand your path, who haven't walked where you've walked, who are speaking from their own limitations. And those opinions, they don't deserve a place in your mind. I remember once, many years ago, I was working on something important to me. I put a lot of time into it, a lot of effort, and someone dismissed it casually, as if it meant nothing. For a moment, I felt that old reaction rising, the urge to defend myself, to explain, to prove them wrong. But then I stopped. I asked myself, does this person truly understand what I'm doing? Do they have the experience to judge it? The answer was no. So I let it go. And that moment taught me something powerful. Not every voice deserves your attention. In fact, very few do. When you start filtering criticism that way, through logic instead of emotion, you protect your peace. You stop carrying unnecessary weight. Now let's talk about pressure, because life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. Plans fall apart. People disappoint you. Situations arise that you didn't prepare for, and in those moments your true nature shows itself. Some people panic, some get overwhelmed, some freeze. But the ones who have trained themselves, they remain steady. Not because they don't feel the pressure, but because they expected it. They understand that life is not meant to be smooth all the time. So when difficulties come, they don't waste energy wishing things were different. They focus on what needs to be done. That's a habit you can build. Instead of resisting reality, accept it quickly. Not passively, but clearly. This is what's happening. Now what's my next move? That mindset alone will keep you grounded when others are losing control. And here's another truth you come to understand with age. Not everything is within your control. In fact, most things aren't. People will make their own choices. Outcomes will unfold in ways you didn't expect. Life will move in directions you didn't plan. And if you attach your peace to controlling all of that, you will suffer. I've been there. Holding on too tightly to how things should be, replaying situations in my head, wishing I could change what already happened. But all that does is drain you. It keeps you stuck in a place you cannot change. Real strength comes from letting go. Not giving up, no, that's different, but letting go of what you cannot influence. Redirecting your energy toward what you can still do, what still lies ahead. Think of it like water. It doesn't fight the obstacles in its path. It moves around them, over them, sometimes even through them. It adapts. And because it adapts, it keeps moving forward. That's how you stay strong in life. Now there's one more thing I want to share with you, and it may seem simple, but it's one of the most powerful habits you can develop. Learning to stay silent. When I was younger, I thought speaking more meant having more control. I thought I needed to explain myself, defend my position, fill every silence. But over time, I realized that silence carries its own strength. When you don't react immediately, when you don't rush to speak, you create space. And in that space, you gain clarity. You observe more. You understand more. And interestingly, others begin to reveal more about themselves. Silence can shift an entire interaction. The next time someone tries to provoke you, don't respond right away. Let the moment sit. Let them sit with their own words. You'll be surprised how often that alone changes the outcome. And beyond that, there's something else, moving quietly in your life. You don't need to announce everything you're doing. You don't need to explain your plans to everyone around you. Just do the work. Make your progress. Let the results speak when they're ready. Because when you talk too much about what you're going to do, you invite doubt, opinions, distractions. But when you move in silence, you protect your focus. You stay aligned with your path. I've seen this over and over again. The people who achieve the most are often the ones who say the least. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand the value of their energy. And by the time others notice what they've done, it's already finished. Now, as I sit here, looking back on the years behind me, I can tell you this with complete honesty. The moments that once felt overwhelming, the things that once bothered me deeply, most of them faded. They passed, just like everything else does. What stayed with me was not the noise, not the opinions, not the small frustrations. What stayed was how I learned to carry myself through it all. So, if I could leave you with anything, it would be this: guard your peace. Not aggressively, not with anger, but with quiet discipline. Choose carefully what you react to. Choose carefully what you care about. And most importantly, choose yourself again and again without needing permission from the world. Because in the end, the strongest people are not the ones who control everything around them. They are the ones who have learned to control themselves. And once you reach that point, very little in this world can truly disturb you anymore. All right, I've said quite a bit today, maybe more than I intended. But these are things I wish someone had told me earlier, and perhaps hearing them now will make your path a little lighter. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, stay steady, and I'll see you again next time.